It was 65 years ago yesterday that NASCAR was founded at a meeting at the Streamline Hotel over on A1A in Daytona Beach. Some of the stakeholders in the sport at the time, including NASCAR founder Big Bill France, the tall gentleman in the back row, put the organization together to shepherd the sport through its growth, this making NASCAR's hometown Daytona Beach.
Daytona. No matter where a racer was born, Daytona just feels like home. Like a trip to Grandma's house, a family reunion, and New Year's Day all rolled into one. A place so rich in history, but still vibrates with the promise of a brand new season. Welcome to Daytona, one and all. Welcome home.
Always an exciting time for the drivers and teams to come to Florida in February to open a new season at Daytona International Speedway. And today the NASCAR Nationwide Series is set to do so. And what a field ready to roll out onto this racetrack. Look at the accomplishments contained within this group of 40. The Daytona 500 wins, the championships, both Sprint Cup and Nationwide, and even IndyCar. And with just some of the stories in this great field, we go to Vince Welch.
Alan, Danica Patrick has been the Daytona darling ever since capturing the pole for tomorrow's Daytona 500. Every move she makes draws a crowd and seems to create a headline. Today's race plan: stay out of the accidents, keep the car up front late in the race, and have the right drafting partner when it counts most. If those moves fall into place, tomorrow's front page photo may be Danica celebrating in victory lane.
There is no name more synonymous with winning here at Daytona than that of Earnhardt. Dale Earnhardt Sr. won this race 7 times. Dale Jr. has won here 6 times. Now, we all know his focus this year is to win a NASCAR Sprint Cup title. So why run this race? Considering his concussion of a year ago, could the risk today be greater than the rewards? When I asked him that a moment ago, here's what he said simply: Doc, this is Daytona, and I am an Earnhardt.
With abundant talent and personality, Trevor Bayne has earned many opportunities in NASCAR. This year, he takes the wheel of the 2-time championship-winning 6-car, hoping to make it 3 in a row. This day, he brings a cachet of his own Daytona 500 win. With his respected ride and his respected drive, they make him a potential drafting partner for anyone who wants to win this race.
In the X Games and motocross world, Travis Pastrana is like Dale Earnhardt in NASCAR. Everybody knows his name, but here in the NASCAR Nationwide Series, he's just one of 40 drivers trying to prove himself. Now, prove himself will be a big challenge today. It's his first ever restrictor plate race. He only had a handful of laps of practice. We're going to have to watch the 60 car. Now let's go trackside.
And now for the most famous words in motorsports, please welcome your Grand Marshals. Professor of Medicine at National Jewish Health and University of Colorado, Denver, Dr. James D. Crapo, and President of the COPD Foundation, John W. Walsh.
Drivers, start your engines!
I'll get on the line here now. Check it.
First time you crank that engine for new season's gotta feel good.
Oh, it's a great feeling. That anticipation, and everything is finally here, ready to go.
Yeah, it's good to hear it start up, too.
From the crew chief? Yeah. Lower left there is our ESPN in-race reporter for the day, man that's won this race for the last 5 years and was racing for the lead in the final corner last year when he was involved in an accident. Tony Stewart, our ESPN in-race reporter. We talk to him as the cars roll off onto the track next.
Checkered flag has waved for Tony Stewart. Oh, here we go.
Tony Stewart, back-to-back Daytona wins. Tony Stewart, the pole sitter, will come down and win the season opener at Daytona. For the 4th time, Tony Stewart is a winner at Daytona.
And a crash. While they spin, coming down the front straightaway, it's going to be all Tony Stewart. White flag is out. Here we go. Who's going to win it at Daytona?
Stewart and Castle are on the move. They are side by side for the lead.
At the stripe, Tony Stewart does it. This was oh so close.
4 in a row, baby.
Well, like you told us a couple minutes ago, it's been in a lot of different fashions. These finishes have all been different. but the result has been the same in 4 of the last 5 years and 6 times overall. Tony Stewart winning this season opener for the NASCAR Nationwide Series at Daytona. And he was in the hunt for the win last year when he was involved in a last corner crash. Stewart rolling onto the racetrack now. He's our ESPN in-race reporter for the day, DJ.
Hey, Tony Stewart, Dale Jarrett. I know you've been down here for about 10 or 11 days now. Didn't spend a lot of time in this Nationwide car. I just want to know that in some of that downtime, have you looked over the roster? And there's a lot of inexperienced drivers in this race. Do you know who's in what car out there?
No. I really don't. I mean, I know some of the guys, that are the Roush cars, the Gibbs cars. I mean, I'm used to seeing Joey in the 18. I know that's Matt today. But for the most part, the guys that I think we'll be racing with will be guys that we're pretty familiar with, but there are going to be a lot of guys we're not. So we got to get up here and, just be careful here today and know at the start of this thing there might be some guys in the front that'll end up coming to the back and vice versa. So we'll just pick at it a little bit at a time, probably run by ourselves for a little while here. It was fun to watch and see how long I could run without a partner while all these guys in front of us had partners. So we'll try that for a little while, see how long we can hang and take care of this Ritz Oreos Chevy. And it's cool to be in a Camaro here at Daytona, so we'll try and see what we can do with it.
Smoke, our mailbag question comes from Doug in Maumee, Ohio. He wants to move to the end of the race, and he says, you're leading and trying to block both lanes. What worries you the most, not winning or crashing the field?
Well, after Talladega Fall Cup race, I'm worried about crashing the field, but honestly, it's hard because no driver likes to have to play defense like that. You want to win because you had a good offense, but it's restrictor plate racing, and you got to do what you got to do. So everybody understands that it's not what you want to have to do, but it's expected here. So I want that opportunity to Kyle Dell Sr. I think that'd be an awesome category to be in with the guy that called this place his own personal sandbox.
Well, Tony, we know you're pretty good here yourself, my man. Thanks for talking with us. We'll look forward to talking with you later on in the day.
All right, pal. Thank you.
Somehow his reaction to your questions didn't surprise me in the least. Our over-the-wall reporter today is the rear tire carrier for Tony Stewart's team, Brad Robinson. And Brad, this is Tony's only nationwide race of the year. Does that add any kind of pressure for you?
I mean, we don't really have any added pressure to us, to be honest with you. We have a pretty veteran crew here today, and we understand what it takes being a Speedway to be successful today, and that's not fast pit stops. Just being smooth and consistent on pit road and having no mistakes, penalty-free. Gas is going to be real important for us to get to our fuel windows and then make it to the end of the race. Just keeping Tony into the race at the end and the last 10 laps, 5 laps, last lap, just letting him have at it. I mean, he's a very, very talented driver. He loves driving this race in the RCR Nationwide cars. So it's just our job just to be consistent and be the veteran crew that we are and have fun out there. So hopefully we'll be seeing you guys in a couple hours down Victory Lane.
I like your spirit there. Brad Robinson carrying the rear tires for Tony Stewart. Thanks for carrying our camera today, Brad, and best of luck during the race.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Cars are on the parade and pace laps. They take a little while here at Daytona. We'll take a break, come back, and get you ready for the start of what we expect to be an exciting Nationwide Series season opener. Our telecast presented by Royal Purple. Back at Daytona International Speedway, ready for the start of the NASCAR Nationwide Series 300-mile season opener. 40 cars, a stellar field of drivers, an interesting mix of Sprint Cup experience, Nationwide Series experience, and a group who've never raced at Daytona before. About to embark on a journey to see who gets to hoist the trophy in Victory Lane at the World Center of Racing. 300 miles around this 2.5-mile track is 120 laps. This last moment before the start for a driver.
A lot of nerves right there. Pack's bunched up. Everybody anticipating the start of a new season.
Pace car heads off. Mustang, Camaro, Camry set to fight it out on the high banks of Daytona to start the Nationwide Series season. The green flag's in the air. begin to see the tandem drafting pairs form up. Matt Kenseth, Kyle Busch. Kyle in the black 54, Kenseth in the white and black 18. They're hooked together, coming through the pack.
Didn't take him long to make a move there, did it? Harper Kligerman doing a great job out front with Trevor Bayne, though, getting a little gap for those guys.
It's going to be kind of interesting to see just how this pack develops. We haven't seen this many cars drafting at one time, so we don't know if these cars can run without tandem drafting to be able to keep up.
That's what's going to be great about today is we're going to see all kinds. We're going to see the tandem. We're going to see some packs. At times they're going to get strung out where we're going to see some single file racing.
Trevor Bayne, Parker, and Kligerman, 677, the top two. Then it's Tony Stewart and Danica Patrick tearing up through the pack. 33, 34, red and green. Didn't Stewart say he was just going to hang out in the back for a while?
I thought that's what I heard him say. He said he was going to try to run by himself for a little bit. Like Danica.
She had another idea.
Yeah,
she didn't give him any option, latching onto his bumper and going to the front quickly.
Oh, that's tight. Look out.
Okay, Danica did a good job right there. Saw how these cars were starting to jam up, got off of Tony's rear bumper, and allowed these cars to kind of separate.
Yeah, but watch how quickly they lose that front group there, those first four, as they stay attached.
Yeah, that's fine. It's still early in the race. You just don't want to get caught up in something this early in the race.
On the outside, Kyle Busch and Kenseth again. So many new names, different number combinations. That's Bayne in the 6, Kligerman in the 77, Stewart 33.
This is what we heard Tony say. He wanted to see what he could do without drafting help. I'm pretty impressed so far.
And someone else to keep an eye on today, white with the red roof, number 1, Kurt Busch. Won the last Nationwide Series race at this track last July. He's moved into the number 5 spot.
I think Kurt Busch started dead last.
Except for the cars that had to drop to the rear, there were 3 that had to go to the back as they mix it up. Stewart to the front. Now Kyle Busch goes for the lead.
You can see Matt Kenseth in that 18 as Kyle went up on the back bumper of Tony Stewart. He had to kind of get out of it for a second, lost him, and now it's reattached to that bumper of that 54 car of Kyle Busch.
This got to be nerve-wracking right here for Trevor Bayne. Caught in the middle.
24, Blake Cook. Pushed by Sam Hornish Jr. in the yellow 12 and making a run on the inside line.
You see Danica trying to get herself in a position just to get somebody on her bumper so she can go forward. See Austin Dillon in the 3 has paired up with Tony Stewart right now. Try to move over and get those 2 separated. Wasn't able to do that. He thought that he could get against the 3. A little arrow deal there and see if he can slow him down. Here comes Danica too.
That side draft that Professor Evernham talked about on NASCAR Countdown, the wake of air. Stewart leads, Dillon second, Patrick is third, Elliott Sadler's up to fourth. The yellow 20 is Brian Vickers in fifth, 3 wide, a little bit behind them. Inside lane there, the 1, Kurt Busch, now with drafting help from Casey Kane, who drives the 5 today. 77 Kligerman, 6 Bain. Look up the inside lane. 31 Allgaier, 0-1 Mike Wallace. They ran out of room.
I'm really impressed with Danica. She's got a fast race car. She was able to hang there in third until now she's got some drafting help.
And a pretty good one. Dale Earnhardt Jr. was behind her, just bailed out of line. And on the inside lane, Elliott Sadler behind Danica Patrick, and a car spinning. Scott Lagasse Jr. turned out of the pack, and somehow nobody else gets involved.
Get her fired up.
Somehow got away with it, not without some damage. You see some damage on the right front.
Just getting ready to say 3 wide through that tri-oval really makes these cars light. You can see them all getting jammed up.
That's Blake Cook's car. You see had some damage on the nose there.
When that starts happening in there, you can't see very far in front of you. So as things start slowing down, someone has to get out of the throttle. If they're a little loose, then someone gets hit from behind. That could have been much bigger than what it turned out.
So first caution flag of the race comes out, 7 laps in.
Yeah, you can see right there is the 8 car, Scott Lagasse Jr., in the middle coming through the tri-oval.
You see Kyle Busch was trying to make it 4 wide. That Lagasse looked like he thought he was clear. He was going to try to get down to that inside line. Just didn't have quite enough room there. I believe that was our pole sitter, Trevor Bain, that he pulled down in front and just clipped his nose.
Yeah, I wonder if Trevor Bain's got any damage on that right front corner.
And you saw the accordion there behind Bain is where Blake Cook got the damage on the nose of the 24.
That's usually a lot bigger wreck than we just saw. With just one car being able to come through the middle of all this and nobody else get caught up.
6 cars in the top line there. We'll go 3 wide right now. Keep coming. Keep coming. Keep coming.
That look from our Nationwide Insurance on board.
And I believe that was a decision that Scott Lagasse made on his own. I don't think that he was told probably by his spotter that he was clear. It's just something that you feel in that situation. Just wasn't quite there.
Back it down. Just back it down. Stay straight. Nice and easy. Easy. Just keep easing up. Out.
Travis Pastrana with the Ford EcoBoost camera today.
All that going on while Danica Patrick took the lead.
Took the lead, yeah. It's going to be one of those races where there's so much going on all at once. You know, last year this race had 33 lead changes. In the July race here for the Nationwide Series, a shorter race by 50 miles, they had 41.
I think we could
set a record.
Yeah, try to get to that today. And that's just the ones at the start-finish line. That's not counting all the passing we saw in the corners and down the back straightaway.
And after 7 laps of green flag racing today, we've had 3 different drivers lead 4 different times. Trade the lead 4 times. So first caution out, Danica Patrick taking the lead in the tri-oval, and then the spin behind her. And we wait to see. That's what we wait to see, if anybody's going to pit.
Staying out.
There's your answer. I don't think everybody will stay out. We may see a few of them peel off. Quite a few. Tony Stewart's first.
More for fuel than tires here, Andy, right?
Yeah, the tires are really holding up well here, especially left sides. So if they do anything, right now it's probably early enough they'll just get fuel. Vince?
Matt Kenseth coming. He says the car's running a little hotter than yesterday, so they want to make sure and get that grill cleaned. It's going to be fuel only and a slight chassis adjustment. Jamie.
Travis Pastrana, fuel only, said he's tight behind other cars. They said take care of your tires.
Sometimes when you get these splashes of fuel, cars leaving their pits as others are still coming in, you can get some collisions on the pit lane. Looks like everyone's going to get away from this one cleanly. Got a half dozen cars did not stop under the yellow. They'll be leading this race when we restart. Coming to the restart, the NASCAR Nationwide Series at Daytona, telecast presented by Royal Purple. 5 cars didn't pit under the yellow, including the leader, Danica Patrick, Dave.
Alan, I was just checking in with Mike Creech and the crew chief one last time about their mistake of communication. He admitted that they did make a little bit of a flaw between their communication to each other. The crew down here is actually very experienced. Jimmy Johnson's crew is the crew, and as they go green, Alan, she'll have to stop about lap 37.
All right, Dave, thanks. Patrick, 34, with Elliott Sadler in the 11 to her left as we go back up to speed.
As frantic as that racing was in those first few laps, she might get another chance under caution before that 37th lap comes.
Not pitting under the yellow, Patrick, Sadler, Brian Vickers, Kurt Busch, Casey Kane. Austin Dillon and Mike Bliss stayed out initially, came back and pitted on the second lap of yellow to go to the back of the pack. Separation first to second as Patrick gets out away from Kurt Busch, and now it's Tony Stewart backing off Kurt Busch's bumper, and Elliott Sadler goes to the lead in the 11 car.
That Kurt Busch just flying up through the field. He was the last car to get in on speed yesterday. Started back to, was Ridley to start in that 40th spot. Didn't take him long to find his way to the front.
Yeah, we talked about Tony Stewart and just how good he is at this style of racing. Matt Kenseth. And I'll tell you, you got to really throw Kurt Busch in there. He's probably one of the very best at this style of racing.
Two of the many championship contenders in this nationwide series this year leading this race. Teammates now at Joe Gibbs Racing, Elliott Sadler and Brian Vickers. Further back in the pack, there's Austin Dillon in the 3. And with him, Matt Kenseth in the Gibbs 18.
I don't know, probably blow up, Matt. We'll have to wait and see. It popped out of gear there. The guy was right up my front and I over-revved it terribly. Wouldn't stay in fourth gear, it vibrates so much.
That's not good. You know, they have rev limiters to try to minimize those over revs if you miss a start a shift, but what it'll do is the momentum of the engine will carry itself way up above the rev limiter, so I can see why Matt's concerned.
Watch that red and white car on the outside. That's Joe Nemechek, former winner here at Daytona, former champion in this series. Always so good in the drafting game. And he's steaming toward the front.
Trevor Bayne kind of bailed out on him right there. They could have taken the lead.
That's a little surprising that Trevor would do that there without somebody. I mean, I know Tony Stewart is right there to get on his bumper, but he had a good situation to where he could have driven up there. 3 cars trying to work together doesn't work that well with this configuration.
22, the Sprint Cup champ, Brad Keselowski comes into the picture, white and black machine. Whoa, Sam Hornish Jr. in a squeeze in the 12.
Yeah, you're at that point, you just have to roll out the throttle a little bit and hope that you don't get run over.
When you start coming into that tri-oval 3 wide, it's almost like you got to pull your elbows in. You just kind of run out of room, don't you?
Yeah, you need all the downforce and all the air that you can get there. And you got cars on either side. That car's getting really light in a handful. Sometimes it feels like you don't even have control of the front tires.
Here's Danica looking outside of Kurt Busch. 7 is Regan Smith.
I'm impressed with that 34 car, Danica Patrick. I've really seen her be able to do things with that car. It shows me that it's a very strong car. She's got a good engine in that thing, and I think you're going to see her at the front all day.
Yeah, something that she showed last year was she really has a feel for this type of drafting that we get with this tandem drafting. She knows how to keep those cars attached really well, makes a lot of speed. I don't know about that move, but yeah.
She's kind of having a hard time finding somebody to draft with consistently. She's doing most of this by herself.
Had done some work with the 31 car of Justin Allgaier in practice yesterday, who just pulled into line in front of her. Here's Trevor Bayne with a push from Sam Hornish Jr., left of your screen. Trying to move forward on the trio of Joe Gibbs Racing Toyotas, Sadler, Vickers, and Kyle Busch.
See Kyle's car spitting a little water there going down the back straightaway. Looks
like Tony Stewart may have decided to bail out of a little bit of this and let some of it settle out ahead of him. Lead change. Elliott Sadler and Brian Vickers pull the switch. And Brian Vickers goes to the #1 spot. As we're not even 50 miles in today's 300-mile race at Daytona. ESPN's live coverage of the NASCAR Nationwide Series from Daytona, presented by Royal Purple today, reminding you to make sure to go to NASCAR.com for all your latest NASCAR information. Just 50 miles into that 300-mile distance today, and that's the lead draft. Brian Vickers in the yellow 20 heads it for Joe Gibbs Racing. 3 Joe Gibbs Racing cars running first, second, and third. Then it's Justin Allgaier in fourth, and Joe Nemechek in the 87 car, top 5 now. And after some things we saw from our Florida DOT Alert Today Alive Tomorrow onboard cam as Joe was buckling in on the grid, I wasn't sure he was even going to make the start of the race. Dave?
Here's what he saw, Alan. As soon as they threw the master switch to start the electrical, smoke at the front of the car there. You can see Joe was just getting in the car and getting ready. So they immediately turned the car off again. I asked the crew if anything does not work on the dash. They said no. They were able to find the shorted wire, and everything's working for the 87 car. Remember, Joe with victories here and the ability here. Glad that happened early and that they got it taken care of.
Yeah, they dodged a major bullet right there. I was surprised that they could have that kind of smoke in the cockpit and get away with it. So far, so good for Joe.
Lead change. Brian Vickers shuffled back in the Gibbs rotation. And Elliott Sadler goes back out in front. Kyle Busch second in the 54. Vickers third in that yellow 20.
One thing I've seen these Gibbs cars trying is to do this 3-car tandem draft. I've seen them experiment with it a little bit, and there's probably a potential gain there, but I'm really worried about the risk involved in that.
Yeah, drivers have talked about trying to make this work for a long time. If 2 could go that fast, what could they do with 3? You know, basically 3 times the horsepower. But it's so risky there, as you said. Now, if you're out front, I can see where it may be a little bit okay. But if you're trying to do this with cars on the outside or you're not the lead group, then I think you're right. It is very, very risky because that second driver can't see, much less the third driver.
Yeah, we're seeing a little gap now with Vickers on the back bumper of Kyle Busch. But when Kyle was the third car, he was actually trying to make contact with that middle car. And if I'm going to have somebody do it, I think I'd like to be Kyle Busch doing it, but it's still a lot of risk.
Yeah, I'm not sure anybody else is really capable. I mean, there's a couple, you talk about Tony and Dale Jr., that have those capabilities, but haven't seen them even try that yet.
Dale Jr. in that red 88 had a big run on the outside with a push from Casey Kane in the 5, but we saw the water starting to boil from the overflow of the 5 car. Jr. went wide in 4 to give that 5 some room to breathe, I assume. And they lost that momentum they had that was carrying them toward the front.
That's one of the successes of NASCAR changing the rules and making these grill openings smaller to make it where they can't do this for extended periods of time. And you can see a big gap growing. When they have to switch, it's going to bring them all back together eventually.
Now here's Matt Kenseth. We saw him drop toward the back earlier, heard about the car jumping out of gear, and there's a little diagnosis going on from behind the wheel.
Okay, Matt, this hose you guys put in here today, we got to get it out of here. That's what knocks it out of gear. You got this big 3-inch hose crammed underneath the shifter, and you can hardly get it in fourth gear, and it knocks it out of gear. We got to get that out of here. So whatever you need for me to get it yanked out of here, that's what we need to do the next caution.
So Matt Kenseth talking to Matt Lucas, the crew chief, and Vince has an update on that story.
Well, and Matt Kenseth took care of it. He didn't have to worry about coming into the pits. He was actually the one that ripped that hose out from underneath that gear shift area. Talked to the interior guy here on this 18 car. He says it's a hose designed to blow cool air down into the feet area of Matt Kenseth to keep his feet from getting too hot. So Matt may be a little more uncomfortable, but at least he's going to be able to shift the car.
Yeah, it looks like the car is still pretty healthy. He was worried about maybe hurting the engine when he over-revved it, but it's running pretty good right now.
Yeah, and the good thing is maybe he's not going to have to try to hold this thing in gear if it didn't do any damage there. Hard enough driving these things in this traffic with 2 hands, much less having to worry about holding it in gear. But you know, it takes a veteran like Matt Kenseth to figure that out right there, diagnose that while he's running around out there at over 180 miles an hour.
Very effective at keeping these 3 cars at the front of this pack for the moment when people make runs at them are Sadler 11, Kyle Busch 54, and Brian Vickers in 20. Kyle Busch right now pushing on Elliott Sadler.
That ain't gonna work. Way too hot, way too quick. We got an issue. Getting way too hot, way too quick.
Yeah, we saw some water coming out of that 54 earlier. I think that's what he's talking about. You see just how far offset of the rear bumper he is on Elliott Sadler, trying to keep the thing cool.
And to make the maximum speed in this, you want to be as close. You've got to breathe it some, but the more that you can stay tucked in behind there, that's going to make maximum speed for the two and be able to get away. But that's keeping everybody else close right now.
Dave Burns is covering Kyle Busch today.
Alan, even with Kyle talking about the temperatures there, he has stayed behind Elliott Sadler a long time. In talking with Adam Stevens, the crew chief, this morning, I said, what gains did the Toyota camp at Joe Gibbs Racing make over the winter? I asked if cooling was one of the gains. He said, yes. They can do a much better job this year than they did last year.
Kyle right now seeing a challenge as up on the outside comes the Penske posse. Brad Keselowski and Sam Hornish Jr. teaming up in their Mustangs. The switch over from Dodge to Ford happening on the Nationwide Series side for the Penske team also. And Brad Keselowski pushed by Hornish to the #1 spot. Now, we've heard a couple of people talking about temperatures, and let's not forget to mention it's hot in Florida today. Not just nice and warm like it's been for the good chunk of the middle of this week, it's hot.
Yeah, it's 81 degrees, just ambient temperature. And you can see that track temp up there, 114. That's pretty hot. I don't know if it's going to affect the handling of the race cars, but it's certainly going to affect the way these cars are cooling.
Yeah, I think that's the bigger thing because this racing surface just being repaved not long ago. They still a lot of grip out there, and with the big spoilers they have on these cars, the package they have, these cars drive pretty good. So I don't think that's a big issue at this, but keeping them cool as you stay tucked up like this can be an issue.
So slow cars down to the inside for the leaders to go by.
Boy, that was a close call right there.
Yeah, that was almost a switch gone bad. Recovered pretty quickly. Still got a good, healthy lead.
Not for long. Separated just for long enough that the charge is on. Bain 6, Kyle 54.
See two drivers that normally do well here. See Michael Annett in that 43, that yellow 43, and right on his bumper, Mike Wallace. Always a factor here.
Yeah, if Kyle Busch was having a cooling issue, this is the best way to fix it.
Yeah, out front. Kyle Busch back in the #1 spot, mixing it up out front, while a couple of guys like Tony Stewart ride around out back.
I didn't even push water.
Back live at Daytona, caution flag is out. Two separate things going on. A spin off of turn 4 for Regan Smith. He's gotten away. Danica Patrick has turned into the garage. No power in this 34 car.
I've been watching her fall back quite a bit and wonder if she had an issue. So Regan Smith pulling out of his pit stall. Get some tires on there.
Juan Carlos Bloom just lapped by the leaders involved in this incident, but it starts with 7 and 11.
Now you can see right here, you got Elliott Sadler catching that 7 car. Looks like he may have gotten a little bit of shove from the 51 of Jeremy Clements. Regan Smith does an incredible job here not to hit anything.
Yeah, I thought at first when I saw it that when Sadler pulled in behind the 87 of Nemechek that maybe he just lost the nose of his car, went up and tapped the 7, but I believe it was a little bit of a tap from behind that sent him up into the 7.
Watch Sam Hornish in this yellow car. Somehow missed the 7.
Yeah, twice there. He had 2 chances and did a great job.
And
Carlos Bloom is out of control. He was a lap down. He was a lap car that they had just gone around.
And you saw at the back of that replay, the neon green 34 car coasting slowly through to the back of the pack and now turning into the garage area.
Here, Danica saying that she didn't see any water coming out or notice that she had lost the coolant, but that must have been what happened here. She ran it hot and the motor laid down. Okay, the car was really strong until it had a problem.
Yeah, it's unusual. I mean, she didn't see it, and we didn't see her doing that much pushing. She seemed to be getting the pushes more, so just wonder if it might have been something else in there inside the engine that created this issue.
Well, one of the things with this style of racing, it really puts a demand on that cooling system, and it has to be right. Everything has to be right. The pressure caps, the way that they pressurize this cooling system, if it's not exactly right, it can go away quickly. And this is a team that they put together in just a short amount of time. So you don't know how much attention they had to that kind of detail.
This effort came together fairly late for Danica to enter this Nationwide Series race. And Mike Ricci, the crew chief, literally saw that race car for the first time when they unloaded it off the truck here on Wednesday. So Regan Smith has pitted twice already under the yellow and continued when Carlos Bloom is in his pit stall while the lead lap cars come to the opening of the pit lane. And the pit road is open for stops. Here they are, Vince.
Michael Lynette coming in, finished third here last year, started 22nd today, all the way up to fifth. Right sides only, and 1 can of Sunoco fuel. Doc?
Dale Earnhardt Jr. said run a little bit of hot, too much temperature, but they're going to go ahead and put 4 tires on it now so they can do 2 later on. 4 tires for Dale Jr. Dave.
They told Kyle Busch not to slide him. That usually means 2 tires. That looks like it. He'll get a wedge adjustment for a little bit of a tight race car. Trevor Bayne, his car also difficult to turn. They make a 2 right side tire stop as well, and Bayne is gone.
So a couple of people there with 4 tire changes going to give up some ground. But at Daytona, the way these cars in the Nationwide Series draft,
they'll get it back quickly.
Yep. Second caution out after a crash off turn 4, and at the same time, something gone wrong under the hood for Danica. Doubled up for the restart at Daytona. Before the green, we check with Jamie.
And Danica Patrick walking around assessing things. Danica, what did you see and feel when things took a turn for the worse?
Well, I guess before it just kind of shut down and lost power, it was slowing down. And when I lost that lead pack, I was thinking, it already felt like the revs weren't quite where they needed to be. But then when I lost that pack, I knew something had to be wrong. And then when I couldn't keep up with Tony and that group of 3, I knew it. So unfortunately, we were having an awesome day. I felt it was really, really fun out there. I mean, it's fun to do. It's fun to do these Speedway races, and I thought that my motivation was to go out there and win today. And I felt like we really had a good chance. So it's a bummer for Turner Scott Motorsports, who put this all together. For GoDaddy, I'm sure they were all excited. We're all having a good week, and it was looking to get even better. But Illinois Tourism came on the car for the race, so it's a bummer. Lots of people excited about this one, but we got the big one tomorrow, so I hope we're getting all the bad luck out of the way.
We're back to green flag racing right now, Danica, but do you know what happened to the motor as the guys continue to look at it?
No, Scotty from Hendrick just wanted to get underneath there and let him take the hood up, so I think he's just going to look at it now. He said, I'll let you know if I find something, so I'm not sure.
Thoughts real quick going into tomorrow, historic day. You're starting on the pole for the Daytona 500.
Well, I'm concerned about this right now, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be, I'm going to be nervous, I'm sure. Leading that incredible field to the green flag is going to be an honor, but I'm also, well, that's concerning when it starts. We'll try and be smooth and make it to the end.
Thank you. Alan?
All right, Jamie, so the investigation continues in the garage area on the 34, while the racing continues to be pretty spectacular on the track at Daytona. Kyle Busch out in front. Matt Kenseth with him in the draft. Right behind them, Sam Hornish in the 12, and Brian Scott in the 2.
That's pretty amazing to see Brian Scott up there. They had some kind of issue in qualifying yesterday, wondering why their car didn't perform any better. Obviously, they've got that fixed, whatever it was. Worked his way all the way to 3rd right now.
Yeah, there was even some speculation that they had something wrong with the engine. They even considered changing it, decided not to. Looks like they made a good decision so far.
Lost his drafting partner for the moment. Hornish has dropped back off his bumper. Brian Vickers pushed by Elliott Sadler going to the outside. Sadler started kind of deep in the pack. One of the teams that took 4 tires on the pit stop. Didn't take him long. Now some Childress cars hooked up together. Scott in the 2, Austin Dillon in the 3 in that outside lane. Let's mention that Regan Smith continued after a few pit stops under the caution flag. Juan Carlos Bloom took his car to the garage after the damage from his part in that spin. Blake Cook has gone to the garage. The damage from his involvement in that first incident, a little too much to overcome. And Scott Lagasse Jr., same thing, back behind the wall.
Coach got to be pretty happy with this picture.
Yeah, we saw him trying to make 3 of those Gibbs cars work together a while ago. Are they going to try 4 now?
From the GameStop onboard, Matt Kenseth, after we saw him rip that hose out that was getting in the way of keeping the car in 4th gear.
It's really interesting and fun to watch Matt Kenseth and how good he's become at this style of racing. Obviously, a couple of Daytona 500 wins, went Talladega, but he did not really care for this type of racing when he first came on the scene in Sprint Cup racing, and but he's really transformed into one of the better restrictor plate drivers. He understands what it takes to go fast here and get yourself in a position to win.
Penske cars were making a run, got separated on that outside lane, 12 and 22, sliding back a bit. Casey Kane in the 5, pushed by Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 88. And on that inside lane, that black car, that's Reed Sorensen in the 40.
Up there, Reed Sorensen in this car that is not funded as well and part of these big organizations. Just shows you what an equalizer that it is here at Daytona with these cars and the restrictor plates that they run.
Johanna Long in the 70 in this lead draft. We got a glimpse of Eric McClure in the 14 in the lead draft. Here they come again, Mike Wallace and Joe Nemechek, 0-1 and 87.
Alex Bowman there on the bottom in the 99.
One of the rookie drivers. 74, Mike Harmon, the Alabama veteran, racing up through the center of the pack. And 51, Jeremy Clements, he got the free pass at that last caution to come back around onto the lead lap. He crossed the finish line 11th that time.
I believe that's where he finished here in July. He was in that 11th spot. Doing a great job here once again today. How about Mike Harmon, though? This is a car that he got from the Penske organization. Doing a fantastic job in that 74 up here towards the front, right in the middle of all of this.
Mike, veteran short tracker from Alabama, has been around the upper levels of NASCAR racing now for many years. Shows up at the racetrack every week, bringing the best equipment he can and giving it his very best effort. And a little wiggle there.
Yeah, good save.
More new names, 32, Kyle Larson. 00, Jason White. Larson, the young phenom from California that's won in about everything he's strapped into. His Daytona debut in the Nationwide Series. He ran the ARCA Series race here 7 days ago. He finished 2nd. Just past 100 miles of today's 300-mile race for the NASCAR Nationwide Series at Daytona. Kyle Busch is leading.
The shot from high above at Daytona International Speedway, aerial coverage provided by Goodyear. Everything they learn, making tires that face the grueling demands of NASCAR, inspires what rolls into yours. Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR. Right now, it's Matt Kenseth and Kyle Busch out front as we are 46 laps into this race. One of the biggest stories all week, though, during Speed Weeks has been the Daytona 500 pole sitter, Danica Patrick. She started 12th today and looked strong early.
Yeah, she looked real strong, Nicole. She's been running good. The car started losing power, though. Now you see her drifting to the back of the pack. She hit pit road here. Was something wrong with the engine? They've had this thing behind pit wall. They're working on it, but she was really happy with the car, really happy with the team. And Brad, I thought she looked great out there today.
Looked really strong. I think she had a contending car, did an excellent job early, and just kind of waned their motor problem.
She's been off the track since lap 32 and says that she'll now think about how nervous she'll be about leading the field to green in the Daytona 500.
I think today her performance actually gave her a lot of confidence. She was up front, mixed it up, took the lead under green. One time. did a great job. Had a little bit of a mystery engine program right there, waiting to hear what the final synopsis was there.
You know, Alan, one of the things we talked about in Countdown is all that experience in Joe Gibbs Racing right now at the front of the field. It looks like it's paying off.
Yeah, Nicole, between those top two, Matt Kenseth and Kyle Busch, 77 wins in the NASCAR Nationwide Series and 48 Sprint Cup wins. And they recently pulled that swap you have to do in the tandem racing and made it look textbook.
Yeah, they did a good job of getting that gap on the field. Take that opportunity to make the swap. You can see Matt Kenseth now going to the lead. Matt's still a little concerned about the engine in that car after he missed a shift on the restart. Vince?
You know, Andy, one of the concerns for Matt Kenseth was the fact that they over-revved the engine on that restart and that missed shift. He said, when we get up to Kyle, we'll have an understanding of whether we've damaged the motor. If I can stay up with Kyle and push him, we'll know that we're fine. If not, we'll know we've got a problem. He had no issue whatsoever staying up with Kyle and being the one doing the pushing earlier. Now he's out front.
And right now, he's not too worried about it. The motor looks very healthy at this point, but that can also come back to haunt them at the end of the race. If they've done some damage to a valve spring or something like that, it could come back later.
Yeah, my concern is now that he's gotten out front, though, they're not as fast as they were with Kyle out front. And I think Kyle Busch does as good a job of pushing, so it makes me wonder, is it that car down a little bit on the horsepower?
For the lead, 31, Justin Allgaier, pushed by 43, Michael Annett. To the outside of the Sprint Cup drivers, Kenseth and Busch. The 6th and 5th place finishers in the Nationwide Championship last season, both hoping to be the first place finisher 10 months from now down in South Florida.
You can see right there as they exited the tri-oval, Kyle Busch in that 54 got over just enough to side draft onto Michael Annett in that yellow 43. It separated the 31 and the 43.
Yeah, it looks like that's something that Kyle learned how to do. He's learned that little trick of how to use the side of his car when he's got some other drafting partners and how to maybe break them apart. It's going to be one of the tools in his toolbox as he comes down to the end. Every time he does that, though, he's educating the other drivers.
35 cars on the racetrack, 35 cars on the lead lap, 35 cars pretty much in this lead draft. There are a few who have slid toward the back of the group and decided to kind of ride it out for a little while. Tony Stewart, Austin Dillon, Brian Scott, Travis Pastrana, Sam Hornish Jr. Those are the final 5 on the lead lap.
And they probably told Travis Pastrana, if you can find that 33 and hang with him, you got to be in good shape. But he didn't know Tony was going to run back in 33rd. Dave?
DJ, as crazy as the pack has been, Tony realizes that not only taking care of his fenders, but taking care of his radiator and the cooling in his car is pretty important. Listen.
Not very many of them are going to have water left at the end of the day.
15 laps ago, guys, and he's been just hanging back here, just riding. He says, we've got a really good hot rod.
Outside temperature up to 84 degrees, Dave, on a Saturday in February in Daytona Beach, Florida. As you look back at Travis Pastrana, now look ahead from Pastrana to Tony Stewart. Now this, for Pastrana, he talked about just getting out there, logging laps, getting all the experience in the draft he could, and then seeing what happened at the end.
Yeah, the one problem with the experience part is running at the back is going to keep him out of trouble. He's not going to learn a lot about what it's going to take at the end when this thing starts changing. You see Tony Stewart and all these Childress cars, they're not going to be back there at the end. They're going to be doing this tandem racing, coming up through the middle. And then when that happens, Pastrana's going to have to figure out something pretty quick.
Travis right now running in 34th place, Jamie.
Well, it takes a lot to make Travis Pastrana nervous, but he actually used that word in talking about the draft. And in practice, he ran with Trevor Bayne, as you guys talked about, but he was the one being pushed the whole time. He never once pushed another car, and that's a reason you see him keeping his distance. He's not sure. He's a little nervous to get up there and actually make contact with another car.
Got plenty of racing left to go today.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing to be nervous of. This type of race will make the very best out there nervous at times, I will assure you. So he is doing probably the right thing, just getting a better feel, and he want to get to the end to see what kind of things happen and how much more you have to push it.
The second group is making me a little nervous. Front 6 have broken away. Second group, 3 wide just seconds ago as some people try and move forward. and some others were moving backwards. 01 Mike Wallace was sliding back into that pack after getting separated from a drafting partner. Before he could pick up another one, they were kind of sliding around a little bit, and it got awfully tight. Now it's sorted out again. Almost to halfway today in the Drive4COPD 300 at Daytona. Matt Kenseth and Kyle Busch are the top two. It's a full day of NBA action tomorrow on ABC and ESPN. At 1 on ABC, Kobe and the Lakers look to get back into the playoff race when they face Dirk and the Mavs. Then at 7 on ESPN, the Zach Randolph and the Memphis Grizzlies head into Brooklyn to take on the Nets. And at 9:30, Kevin Durant and the Thunder host the Bulls. It's NBA Sunday on ABC and NBA Sunday presented by State Farm on ESPN. That's tomorrow. Matt Kenseth leads today. That is the race for the lead at Daytona in the NASCAR Nationwide Series. Our coverage today presented by Royal Purple. We remind you to go to NASCAR.com for all your latest NASCAR information. Look at him go. Spectacular racing for the Nationwide Series here at the World Center of Racing. Kyle Busch gone back out in front after Dale Jr. led a lap. Jr. getting separated from his drafting partner for a moment and sliding back on the inside in that red and black 88.
I don't know how much more my neck and head can stand. I just stand here shaking my head. They can't keep doing this, but they do it lap after lap. Just incredible racing.
Seven, Regan Smith, remember, involved in the last caution, getting spun off of turn 4. He's charged back up to 5th place. 3 deep there.
Kyle Larson, you see in that 32, he's doing a great job of pushing Michael Annett, but he's pushing some water out also. Can't do that for long.
Still impressed with the drive of Jeremy Clements in the 51. Johanna Long in that pack. Alex Bowman in the 99 car. What color is that? Like a light orange and white on the inside there? Colors aren't my specialty. Sorry, folks. There's Bowman, the 19-year-old out of Arizona. In his Daytona debut in the Nationwide Series, doing a great job. Running 14th.
Yeah, we saw him last year be very impressive on some shorter tracks. Had a good finish at Phoenix towards the end of the year, but doing an outstanding job here today so far.
Just across halfway in today's race, just the 2 caution flags so far. Scott Lagasse getting spun at lap 7, and then Regan Smith getting spun out of traffic at lap 31. Now, another story developing while we've been keeping an eye on this lead pack, and it's been hard to turn away as Casey Kane tries to make an inside run for the lead. Sam Hornish Jr. lost the draft in the 12 car, the Penske yellow car there. Well, Brad Keselowski was up toward the lead. He dropped all the way back 17.5 seconds from the lead to try and pick up his teammate, Doc.
Exactly. That's how teams work. And let's listen into the radio when they were telling Brad Kay what was going on with the 12.
Feel like rescuing a teammate? Yeah, he's single car, about 50 behind the whole pack. I try to pull the pin. Sam right now has lost the draft. Start finish line now.
And here's how Sam lost the draft. He said a moment ago he had to back completely out of the throttle and jam on the brakes to miss the 60 car of Travis Pastrana. He said, I would have wrecked the 60. That cost him a lot of time, and thus they are way back outside the top 30 now, but hooked up again, trying to make their way back.
Doc, they're doing a great job of making up time, too. When they fell back there and got hooked together, they were 17.5 seconds behind the leader. In 6 laps, they've made up 5 of those seconds. They're 12.5 seconds back now and still coming forward.
Oh, trouble. Mike Wallace gets turned out. Other cars spinning into the tri-oval. Joe Nemechek, Reed Sorensen, Kurt Busch. Caution is out. looks like everybody's going to fairly well get away with it.
Yeah, I saw some damage.
4 tires.
In front of Kurt Busch's car for sure as he went sliding through the grass.
Well, that was in the middle of that pack that we've been watching and kind of holding our breath waiting for something to happen. You talked about, you know, they just kept going and kept going. Well, finally gave.
See, it was just inevitable. Something was going to happen in the middle of this pack. Mike Wallace has done a great job all day staying at the front of the field. But we've seen him come to the front and kind of fall back. This time he's right behind Joe Nemechek. They come off the corner and everything just kind of stacks up.
Now, Michael Annett was there. Mike Wallace came down.
From Joe Nemechek's view.
Looked up ahead of you, inside, wrecking behind you. You got turn, lock it down, lock it down, lock it down, turn to the left. Okay, to your left, Joe, to your left, to your left, to your left.
Still amazing how many people are getting away with these spins in the middle of the tri-oval in traffic and not really causing a big wreck. And look right there, there's a lot of grass being dug up by the splitter on Joe Nemechek's car in the 87.
And Kurt Busch's car, the one, too. The damage to that nose just from it grabbing the grass at such a high rate of speed.
Yeah, you're really better off if that thing gets turned around and you're either going sideways or backwards as long as it doesn't dig in so it doesn't hurt the front end.
I'll tell you one thing I'm not doing. I'm not going to count this one out as a chance to win. I think I saw this in July.
That's right. Had a spin, had a pit road penalty, came back to win.
I think sometimes he just gets even more determined when things like this happen.
So just joining us, we're just past halfway today at Daytona, and the third caution of the race is out. What has been a tremendous pack race up the front, the tandem drafting, people shuffling up and back in the lead group. Dominant story of the day, though, Joe Gibbs Racing, and particularly 2 of their 4 Toyotas in this event, Kyle Busch and Matt Kenseth, have spent more time at the head of the pack than basically about anybody else. Pit road is open, and we go to Vince.
The very first pit box belongs to Regan Smith. He says the car is real darty in traffic. He says, I'm just not used to these cars yet. Right side tires only, 1 can of Sunoco fuel.
Casey Kanan, a different car in the Nationwide Series, said that run he was better on 4, so they're putting 4 fresh ones on it once again, and they're going to make a wedge adjustment to help the handling.
Hood up on Elliott Sadler's car. The priority, not gas or tires, it is water. I'll explain in a moment. Dave Burns.
Kyle Busch has led 21 laps today. To lead the last one, he needs his car to turn a little bit better. Track bar adjustment, full of fuel, 4 tires. Doc, back to you.
It's going to be about a 45 or 50-second pit stop for Elliott Sadler. The temperature gone beyond 270. It started pushing water out. Folks, these Nationwide radiators only hold 3 gallons, so when you push some water, you don't have much left. They're going to take their time here. That's the hose in the front of the car, coming from a cool radiator behind pit wall to be able to put water in the car. They may not put tires on. They're going to watch the pace car, and they'll keep an eye on the clock. If they have time, they'll put tires. If not, the priority is to get the car cool. They're talking about tires. Nope, may not have time now. And they will jack the car up and put tires on it, Alan, and probably put right sides only. But an issue for Elliott Sadler.
Well, one of the priorities for this team, they're running for the championship with this 11 and the 20 Brian Vickers. I saw the hood up on both cars putting water in.
Also long pit stops for Justin Allgaier and Michael Annett under this yellow flag, and repairs continue for Kurt Busch, Reed Sorensen, and others involved in that incident. Casey Kane missed his pit stall. He'll have to come back in. Not as big a problem here at Daytona as at other places. ESPN's coverage of college basketball follows our race today at 4 Eastern. C.J. Leslie and the Wolfpack square off against their Tobacco Road rivals, North Carolina, led by James Michael McAdoo. Be still, Brad. Then at 9, Phil Pressey and the Tigers roll into Rupp Arena for an SEC showdown against Archie Goodwin and the Wildcats. The Saturday Showcase presented by 5 Hour Energy, and Saturday Primetime presented by DirecTV on ESPN and live on Watch ESPN, referencing our buddy Big Brad Daugherty. who we believe bleeds Carolina blue. Aerial coverage today on a beautiful day in Daytona, provided by Goodyear. Everything they learned from making tires that face the grueling demands of NASCAR inspires what rolls into yours. Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR. The spirit of innovation been cruising around over Daytona Beach on an 83-degree February afternoon. Cleanup continues from the third caution of the race. Gives us a minute to catch up with our in-race reporter for the day, Tony Stewart, who's been kind of cruising around, DJ.
Tony, Dale Jarrett, you got us?
Yeah, bud.
Well, we saw you race your way up pretty hard at the first of this race, then hanging back. Did you figure out what you need with this race car?
Yeah, just like I kind of mentioned, I mean, we can get up there on our own. You're not going to be able to win the race on your own doing that, but at least we can stay up there. So we're just trying to take care of it and stay out of trouble. So far, we've been able to do that.
At what point in time do you say, okay, it's time for me to make my way back to the front?
About 20 more laps, we'll start thinking about it.
Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All clear.
Tony's one of those guys that says talk to us anytime.
Anytime. I was waiting on Dale to make the pit call there. I started to count him in.
Yeah. All right, so some folks topping off the fuel there with 51 laps to go. As we're on the one to go now, we go back racing next time. Kurt Busch's car has gone behind the wall. Extended pit stops under the yellow for Justin Allgaier and Michael Annett, who had some fender damage from the jam up off of turn number 4. They've both continued. Mike Wallace still sits on the pit lane with work being done to his car as we double up for the restart. Casey Kane has made the pit stop after missing the stall the first time. Jamie?
Well, I was calling his pit stop, and as I was saying that, I was mentioning how he's in a new car, different number in the Nationwide Series. So when he's coming down pit road here, he sees to his left-hand side the 32 pit board. Well, it's the exact same color as his, and he realized at that point he had already missed his pit box. So he kept on cruising. Team stayed calm. He brought it around. They made the stop and made the changes.
Not a green flag pit stop, and again, in the tandem draft and the pack racing with this Nationwide Series here at Daytona, he'll be just fine.
Yeah, he can make that up pretty quickly.
And a big break with that yellow flag for the Penske group. Brad Keselowski and Sam Hornish Jr. still 13.5 seconds behind the leaders. Remember, Brad had dropped back to pick up Sam, who had lost the draft. They were making up time. They got to make it all up at once when the yellow flag waved. Still 50 laps to go here at Daytona. Regan Smith, 7, and Dale Earnhardt Jr., 88. About a mix of experience levels at Daytona. That's Dale Earnhardt Jr., the 6-time winner here, being pushed by Kyle Larson in that white 32 in his first Daytona Nationwide start.
Pretty quiet the first half of the race, but now he's making a little bit of noise. A lot of high expectations for this driver, young Kyle Larson.
And while 2 tandems have separated from the pack, look at that snarling group behind him, 3 and 4 wide. First time in a long time, Kyle Busch, 54, has been separated from Matt Kenseth by the pit stops in the restart. They tag team together for almost the whole distance today.
It's always interesting to me, though, to see these impromptu partners, how they kind of get together. You can see the 2 junior motorsports cars having different partners because of the situation of the restart. It's about a photo finish for that lap across the start-finish line.
Matt Kenseth, with help from Parker Kligerman, rushing his way back up through. Make that a six-way fight for the lead.
You can see Kenseth kind of got over, side-drafted a little bit on the 32 of Kyle Larson. Had to get out of the gas, it looked like, for just a second. Now he's lost that group and the back bunker of Dale Earnhardt Jr. for the moment.
Trevor Bayne looking to pick up Larson in the draft.
Alan, as you pointed out, you have to be impressed with what Kyle Larson's done here today. Limited amount of experience. Ran the ARCA race here just a week ago. But when drivers have talent, you know, it really comes through, and they don't mind. They really enjoy the challenge of figuring out something new, and he's doing a terrific job here so far.
Larson running right now in 6th position with Trevor Bayne there in 7th, making a run to the outside. While they do that, one of the favorites toward the front of the field for a lot of this race is behind the wall. Vince?
He was indeed fast. Kurt Busch, the winner here in July, but not today. What happened in that accident?
Just some guys from the outside lane came across us. I haven't seen a replay, but it was fun while it lasted. The roofing guys jumped on board to sponsor Finch, and it's just neat to see a program like this still pushing hard and trying, and I gave it my best effort. So just came up short, wrong place at the wrong time, and it was a good run for our Chevy Camaro. The guys put a lot of time into that car in the wind tunnel, and they called me January about 5th or 6th and said, hey, we got a good piece in the wind tunnel, come and race for us. So I said, heck yeah, if it's that good, let's do it.
Thanks, Kurt. Alan?
So Kurt Busch out of it today after being swept up into the 3rd caution just a little while ago off turn 4. Regan Smith, winner of the season finale last year in the NASCAR Nationwide Series. In the series full-time this year to run for the championship, driving Junior Motorsports number 7 Chevy Camaro. He's out in front here at Daytona in the season opener. At Daytona, back live, looking ahead later on today, qualifying for the NHRA Arizona Nationals. Late night tonight on ESPN2. The final eliminations are tomorrow at 8 Eastern on ESPN2. The NHRA Arizona Nationals. Next weekend, it is Arizona for the NASCAR Nationwide Series, race 2 of the season. Jimmy Johnson in the field at Phoenix International Raceway. Our coverage presented by Kawasaki next Saturday, 4 Eastern Time on ESPN2. $80 laps in the books, 200 miles at Daytona in the NASCAR Nationwide Series season opener. Regan Smith in the 7 has the race lead, one of 15 different drivers who've been out in front, swapping the lead 20 times during the day. We've had just 3 cautions in the race for 13 laps. There are 28 cars on the lead lap. And while there have been some drivers who've led a little more than others today, look at this drafting. It's anybody's guess who's going to win. 7, Smith. 54, Kyle Busch. 99, Alex Bowman, the 19-year-old, drafted up into 3rd place.
He's got drafting help from Parker Kligerman in that Kyle Busch Motorsports entry. These guys want to lead.
That yellow car is Brian Vickers, just coming off the pit lane from a green flag stop. One of the championship hopefuls for this season. And he's in a little bit of trouble here, Jamie.
Alan, he came in and said there was smoke inside the car. He brought it in and said, my oil temp is pegged. But as soon as he came into the pit box and they lifted the hood, he said all the temps were going down. So they didn't do anything to it. They're going to keep their eye on it as he's back out on track.
All right, Jamie, thanks. So Brian Vickers right now is in 33rd place, showing 2 laps down to the race leaders.
See that 6-car, Trevor Bayne, he was hooked up really tight with Brad Keselowski. They made a big charge to the front. Looked like they were going to take the lead, and they got separated. They were able to stay up there, but they weren't able to get the lead.
Trevor Bayne started on the pole today for this race, but never led a lap. I mentioned 15 different drivers leading today. Somebody else that hasn't paced the race yet gets out in front, will equal the track record. '74 Mike Harmon being put a lap down by the leaders. He had a long stay on pit road under the last caution. He had raced his way up into the top 10 earlier in the race.
I expected Kyle Busch and Matt Kenseth to get back together and start doing what they were doing earlier in the race, but it looks like Kyle's pretty content to stay on the rear bumper of Regan Smith.
Yeah, and Kenseth is back there now with Elliott Sadler's son, but I just noticed as they were drafting a minute ago, looked like a little bit of water coming out of that 18 car, Matt Kenseth.
Weren't with us earlier. Yep, weren't with us earlier on a restart. Back at lap 13, Kenseth's car jumped out of fourth gear, over-revved the engine. Matt was concerned whether or not it was going to live. He spent quite a bit of time running first or second since then. Now shuffled back a little bit after the pit stops and the restart shuffle. Eric McClure, 14, Junior 88, Kenseth 18. Johanna Long in the 70. Oh, trouble smoke. Engine on the 6 car, possibly.
Definitely a problem with Trevor Bain.
Clear low. Hang on, just hold your line. Just stay right where you are.
And
right
the caution is out again.
Good right here, and the next one right here. Be good to the bottom.
Now I'm going to drive staff, pit 1.
All right, engine's still running.
Engine's still running fine, but I got nothing when I put it in gear and it beats around. I think it's the drive staff.
We've seen this problem before with this car. I believe it was at Charlotte last year. We saw that the 6 car, then it was Ricky Stenhouse driving, had a problem with the drive shaft.
And that could have been big because he was in the middle of that pack.
Yeah, I see pieces falling out of the back of the car. So
outside.
Blowing up here, guys. We're blowing up.
Hey, that's well, just hold your line here. Hold your line, try to hold your line best you can. Hold your line here. Clear low. Hang on, just hold your line. Just stay right where you're at. Right where you're at.
see a lot of parts coming out of the back of that car, and there's a lot of heavy metal parts that are coming out, and the drive shaft parts, probably parts of the transmission.
The 99, plenty of room in front of the 99. One smoking in the middle, Caution's out, bud, caution's out.
That was Matt Kenseth's view.
Yeah, Joanna Long did a nice job, too, of going to the outside of that 6 car when they had the problems.
It was definitely in the drivetrain, because you could see when that started, the problem started developing, you could see the shifter handle actually fly out of gear and then really violently vibrating.
So Trevor Bain, who was running 4th at the time, again a championship hopeful in the Nationwide Series this year, and he might start his season with a big deficit to make up as he's behind the wall and in the garage with still a quarter of this race to go. Remember how Casey Kane missed his pit stall last time? Some modifications being made to the sign he's looking for.
If he missed it last time, he's really going to be confused this time.
Maybe he was looking for his Sprint Cup number. Oh, wait a minute.
Get a little brighter color to see this time.
Yep. He'll be able to see this one.
All right, pit road will be open here.
They can make it to the finish on fuel if they pit now.
And here they come. All of them. Benson.
Regan Smith, they did not want him to slide the tires, but he did just that and went through the box. They had to back him up. A fresh tear off and fuel only. Got to get it full. Jamie?
Casey Kane didn't just have an orange sign, he had 2 signs. He made it in his box. Right sides, tear off and fuel, Doc.
Brad Keselowski was 5 laps shy on fuel. They're going to put about 7 or 8 seconds of fuel in it, tear off, they burn.
Kyle Busch stopped perfectly in his pit stall. 2 right side tires, they'll fill it full of fuel. Also an air pressure adjustment and track bar. Still needs a car to turn a little bit better.
So there you go. Brad Keselowski will take over the top spot, and a variety of strategies played under the 4th caution of today's Drive for COPD 300.
Back at Daytona International Speedway for the first race of the NASCAR Nationwide Series season. We are 33 laps to go, working our fourth caution of the day, an issue for Trevor Bayne. But if you're just joining us, here's what you've missed with the Ram race rundown, starting with Danica Patrick. She's been out of the race since lap 32 after starting 12th.
Yeah, she looked really good, Nicole. I mean, the car handled good, it run fast. She led some laps up there, but lost power in the engine. She's behind the wall right now in a good mood. The team's trying to get the thing back on again, but looks like he can't do it. She's out for the day.
Travis Pastrana started fourth, making his Nationwide Series debut here at Daytona. Had a very close call very early on. Now he's just kind of logging laps, getting ready to go at the end of this race.
Doing exactly what he needs to do. You know, he doesn't have a lot of drafting experience. We saw it on the opening lap, about got into the outside fence, but he is just knocking down laps, getting those experience that he needs to make him better.
We said earlier that Joe Gibbs Racing, we expect them to be strong all season long, and if the early race is any indication, well, we were right.
Yeah, those cars are strong. They've been up front all day, especially Kyle Busch and Matt Kenseth. But I am a little worried about some of the overheating issues that they've had, having to put water in a couple of those cars.
Yeah, Brian Vickers, 2 laps down right now. He had to come down under green to put more water in the car. Championship implications for him.
Yeah, and you got to remember that there's not a chase here. These points count all year long.
Trevor Bayne in the garage after an issue, was running 4th at the time.
So they got a transmission laid out there. We go back in. They're under the back of the car, changing the gear right now.
Vince, let's go up to speed with our Nationwide guys. What do you got?
Well, Regan Smith, one of those running for the championship this season, has led 16 laps today. Coming in for that last pit stop, his crew told him, we don't want to take tires, so don't slide into the box. Don't slide the tires. Smith came in, slid the tires, slid right through the box. Very upset with himself. They had to come back in and put 4 fresh ones on. He's now in 26th. Jamie?
Now, Kyle Larson, 20 years old. 2nd place position right now in his first ever Nationwide Series race. Now, a lot of you out there probably have heard of him. Some maybe not. He is unbelievable. Tony Stewart, Jeff Gordon, both say he is the future. He's been great on the radio, and he's at the front of the field, Doc.
Elliott Sadler, problems with temperatures all day. Rear gear temperature, water temperature, lost a lot of water. Had to come in and put water on it a moment ago. He slid through his pits. They're worried about a vibration on the left side. They only changed right side tires. Alan?
Justin Allgaier, the free pass as we double up for the restart. Still on the lead lap, 28 cars and still 31 laps to go. The closer we get to the finish, the more the intensity builds. Hey, 19-year-old Alex Bowman. That's the Sprint Cup champion you just pushed to the lead at Daytona. How about that?
Pretty amazing. 4 races he started last year. Mentioned a 15th place finish at Phoenix, but here he is battling to win at Daytona.
Keselowski 22, Bowman 99, and here come the Gibbs guys. Once again, Matt Kenseth 18, Kyle Busch 54 for the race lead. Ryan Scott in the 2, Sam Hornish in the 12, getting up there in the fight for the front. Running out of racing room.
There you go. Protect the bottom. 22 and 99 are right with you guys on the bottom.
That was the Raiders radio, Matt Kenseth.
We have twosome to watch there. You see that 11, Elliott Sadler pushing Casey Kane. Both of those drivers know how to do this very well, both in fast cars. Looking to the middle is Casey Kane right now.
Still 32 Larson, 77 Kligerman, 14 McClure, just on the right edge of that picture. The Daytona draft. That'd have been Brian Scott that lap. I'm just getting practice how I think the finish is going to come down.
This is incredible. You know, I don't know what the perfect package is for racing here, but this is pretty close to it. These drivers can do so many things with these cars. We've got tandem racing, we've got pack racing. We've seen cars by themselves go up there and be able to hang in the front.
Yeah, we saw Regan Smith make that mistake under that pit stop under caution. He's already raced his way back up inside the top 10 or 12.
Kyle Larson, I'm just watching him that 32. He's got nobody on his bumper, and there he is battling, trying to get up there with the two guys that are leading the race now.
Brian Scott in the 2, the 17th different driver to lead this race, a nationwide series record at Daytona. And if your favorite hasn't led yet today, hang on, he may by the end of this thing.
Yeah, there's a lot to be decided yet. 27 laps, a lot of things can happen.
If you catch a glimpse of the black flag, it's for Jeremy Clements in the 51. Got some things dangling from his car that NASCAR would like to see clean up. He had a long pit stop under the last yellow. There's the race for the lead. With 26 laps to go in a pick-em race. Spectacular action. The Nationwide Series at Daytona. Our telecast today presented by Royal Purple.
NASCAR Nationwide Series at Daytona. Presented by Royal Purple, the performance oil that outperforms. And in part by Viagra. And Nationwide Insurance. Nationwide is on your side.
A beautiful 83-degree afternoon at Daytona Speedweek's 2013 with the NASCAR Nationwide Series season opener winding toward the checkered flag. Our aerial coverage provided by Goodyear. Everything they learn making tires that face the grueling demands of NASCAR inspires what rolls into yours. Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR. And look at that from the blimp. 3 wide for the leading one, and out of turn 2, Parker Kligerman, the Connecticut native, driving Kyle Busch's 77, gets the lead for a moment. Here come Casey Kane 5 and Eric McClure 14 on the outside, and a squeeze there.
Whoa, that was close. Sam Horns did a great job of backing out right then, because that wasn't going to work.
And Brian Scott, who was pushing him, getting the word from his spotter to back off. Remember, you can't go below that yellow line and advance your position. Here comes Eric McClure to lead at Daytona.
That's 19 different leaders we've had today.
The family with such a long history of success here. Drivers like Ernie Irvin and Sterling Marlin winning at Daytona, driving the old Morgan McClure Motorsports cars. This latest generation behind the wheel, after taking some lumps in recent years in this Nationwide Series, gets his moment at the front of the pack, and he's not done yet.
Not at all. He's got push comes from Nelson Piquet.
Oh, Kyle Busch, trouble under the hood.
The yellow line.
Caution is out.
You're good to come back up. Good to come back up, PD.
See the steam coming out of the overflow fire underneath.
Sorry, guys. That's my bad. I couldn't get out of the middle there. All done.
I think what he might be referring to is he just pushed that temperature too far.
More from their pit box, Dave.
Alan, the Joe Gibbs guys were playing it cool. Kyle had talked about what the temperatures have been all day. As you see the smoke in the cockpit there, they had the water hoses out and ready to help them out, possibly put water in the car, but they never did it, hoping that they hadn't pushed out too much water. Obviously, they had.
Saw Brian Vickers, another Gibbs car, have problems. They've actually made a pit stop to put water in their car.
Along with Elliott Sadler in the 11, another Gibbs car.
All the drivers who've been out in front today, the 20 of them, Kyle Busch led more laps than anyone else. But in the middle of this pack, you heard him say, just couldn't get clear to get cool.
Did a good job to get out of the way and get it on the apron.
Yeah, that stream behind the car is never usually a good thing.
One inside, 43, you're clear. Keep coming, there one blew up on the bottom. Keep coming, it's the 54, he's on fire. Keep coming, no caution, no caution. Caution's out, caution's out.
And a great thing for Kyle that he was able to get the car to the apron and not put a lot of that oil down in the racing groove where these guys are going to compete in a minute. While Kyle will not compete for the Nationwide Championship, it's been a tough day for some of those who will. We were talking about that earlier with the folks down in the pit studio. Some of the would-be contenders for the Nationwide Series Championship have had various issues at different times today.
Yeah, Trevor Bayne is out with that drivetrain issue, so he's going to suffer a big loss. You see Brian Vickers is down. He's still out on the track, but he's still not in a position to get a lap back, one of his laps back. He's 2 down now. Elliott Sadler now making a pit stop. It might be preventive.
One of the few on the lead lap going to come to pit road here with 19 to go. Doc?
Yeah, 28 cars on the lead lap, so Elliott Sadler running back in 23rd position. The car just got very, very hot. Again, you saw what happened to his teammate a moment ago, Kyle Busch. And they said, you know what, we're going to clean the grill. We're going to go ahead and put 4 tires on it. And hopefully this thing will cool down a little bit under yellow and we'll be okay. Right now, the temperature was pegged and they pushed even more water out a moment ago. Alan?
All right, Doc, thanks. So caution out for the 5th time in this race. 3 of them for relatively tame spins. I say that just lacking a better word at 200 miles an hour. A 4th for Trevor Bayne with a mechanical problem, and this 5th one for Kyle Busch with a big problem under the hood. Nemechek, 3 wide on the outside.
Yeah, that was really nice to watch Kyle Larson let the 77 get down in front of him where they could get hooked back up. They look like they've been doing this forever.
McClure trying to pick up a draft from Nelson Piquet Jr. in the 30. Now Sam Hornish will pick up the back bumper of the 14, or will he?
Well, this is a time in that pack where before they were given a little bit. It's all tape now.
Watching for Tony Stewart, 33. Dale Earnhardt Jr., 88. Austin Dillon, 3 to start rolling up from the back. No place to go right now through that.
No, it looked like Tony Stewart might would have jumped down there with the 5 car of Casey Kane. See that 60 of Travis Pastrana. He's never been in this type of situation before.
Kligerman leading that lap. Hornish and Keselowski now hooked up in a Penske draft on the outside lane. Here comes McClure in the 14 and Piquet in the 30. Keselowski and Hornish had to do the switch. They dropped back into that muck. Elliott Sadler comes through in the 11 with a draft from Michael Annett in the 43. No place to go there. They have to back off. And still, Pastrana in that yellow, pink, and blue car right in the middle of this lead pack.
Pastrana has no help. Now he's might get a little bit of a push here. Brad Keselowski, both in those Ford Mustangs. Really thought I'd see Keselowski and Hornish hook up and go to the front, but they weren't able to do it.
Tense action at Daytona.
I don't want to jinx him, but Travis Pastrana's done a great job of staying out of trouble and putting himself in a great position as this race winds down.
Sadler and Annette now going to make a run to the outside. Matt Kenseth, remember, he's looking for a drafting partner with Kyle Busch out of the race. Got nobody right now, but that's Pastrana behind him. Is he one of those guys Kenseth would trust?
I don't know. I think Kenseth really wants to get to his teammate in that 11, Elliott Sadler. Those two work together if they can make that happen. Not going to work right now, though.
10 laps to go. And still watching Stewart on that inside lane. 33.
Now, this is what Travis Pastrana dreamed about, having this opportunity to be in the mix this late in this race.
Regan Smith in the 7, pushed by Keselowski, now pushing Pastrana. And shaking him loose.
This is going to get dicey right here.
If nobody's going to push that 60 and everybody else is tandem drafting.
Oh, they need to push that 60 though. That car is fast. He's staying there with basically no help.
Kligerman squeezing to the inside, 3 deep, contact there.
Comes Casey Kane, he's going to latch on to Travis Pastrana.
And out to the lead goes Regan Smith in the 7.
Was he not spinning through the grass earlier in this race?
Look at that outside lane. Alex Bowman, 99, and Austin Dillon in the 3. Dillon was hanging around in the back a little bit ago.
See Tony Stewart in the 33, dive to the inside. He's got Sam Hornish on his bumper.
Oh, look out. 4 wide. Allgaier gives Pastrana a break.
Stewart says it's time to go. Sorry, bud.
Bowman with a big wiggle in that 99. He gathers it up. Joe Nemechek now picking up a draft from Casey Kane, 87 and 5. Contact in the pack. Brian Scott in the 2, nudged around.
Casey Kane blowing a little bit of water out. Still got 8 laps to go.
Yeah, it's not going to make it that long. You're going to have to still take care of it another few laps here.
Laps to go.
Stewart's getting himself in that position, but he really needs Sam Hornish get on his bumper to get them away from this group of cars.
There's Stewart to the outside by himself.
Yeah, I said he needed some help. Able to separate Michael Annett from Elliott Sadler, so that was helping his cause.
You wonder if Hornish has got some heating problems in that 12, and he just can't stay tucked up long enough.
Yeah, he's one of those battling for a championship, and he certainly wants to make it to the end of this race.
Stewart to 3rd. Regan Smith leads. Brad Keselowski 2nd. Stewart 3rd. Elliott Sadler up there in the middle of that. And Travis Pastrana running top 5 with no drafting help.
Weren't they just bouncing off him on both sides? He did a great job through the trial. Now, somebody needs to push that 60 car. He could get up and have a chance to win the race.
Tony Stewart, 33. Running back in the 20s on the restart. Racing for the lead now as they come down to 5 laps to go.
Five to go here, 5.
The ever so calm voice of Stewart's spotter, Bob Jeffrey, when everything around him is chaos. Oh, there it is, contact. Austin Dillon turned into the middle of the pack.
Motor straight, motor straight. Keep rolling if you see it. Keep rolling here. Keep rolling.
The big wreck with 5 laps to go. That was There's Dillon, there's Casey Kane. Joanna Long. Jamie Dick in the 55 driving away. Mike Bliss. And that's the man around where all the action began as Dillon was trying to race his way up to the front. What a tough way to end the day for that young man who'd done such a nice job today.
Yeah, they had a great qualifying effort, and he'd kept his nose clean all day long. But you knew this was kind of inevitable. It was going to happen at some point in time.
Jason White. And another one of the potential championship contenders in the Nationwide Series this year with trouble in this season opener.
Yeah, young man is a rookie last year, as you said earlier, completed all but one lap the entire season.
There's Michael Annette. And NASCAR has stopped the field down between the start-finish line and turn one, and the red flag is out in this race. So you see the field of contenders, all with visions of what a Daytona win would mean on their mind as we get set for the final few laps. Those of you looking for college basketball, North Carolina and North Carolina State. The race running a touch long. That game starting on ESPN News right now. And then at the conclusion of NASCAR action, after we wrap things up here, you'll get word to rejoin us here on ESPN. So if you're looking for State and Carolina, jump on over to ESPN News right now. Personally, I would highly advise you not to go anywhere, because this is going to be something else as we settle out the end of this race here at Daytona. Pit road going to be open for lead lap cars. Don't know that we'll get many takers here, but I guess you never know. We'll keep an eye on that and check in with Doc.
Well, when the day began, Alan, Sam Hornish told us that a year ago he had a chance to win 6 races but could not get over the hump in the final laps. That's why they made wholesale changes here. New crew chief, new car chief, and now Greg Irwin. The deal this year is to be able to close it in the final laps. How does Sam Hornish close it and get to victory lane?
Well, we've done a really good job today working with a new spotter for Sam. This is his first race together, keeping him out of trouble. It got real hairy there in the middle, but the biggest thing is just getting paired up with the right guys. It's going to be interesting here with just a couple laps to go. Everyone's going to be able to tuck in and more than likely not worry about the water temperature. So hopefully we get this Alliance Truck Parts Ford Mustang to victory lane.
Do you find your teammate Brad Kay or go with whoever?
Well, right now, the way it's going to shake out, you can kind of see who's going to wind up pushing who at the start. It's going to be whoever can get out in front, maybe make a hole on the bottom. There's going to be some guys that like the bottom, some guys that like the top. We're just going to have to wait and see. I don't really know.
All right, we're going to find out. Alan?
Interesting call here. Joe Gibbs Racing Cars on pit road as the field gets the one to go. Kenseth, Vickers, Elliott Sadler. Vickers not on the lead lap, 2 laps down, but Sadler and Kenseth maybe setting themselves up here to try and draft through. They're only going to have 2 laps to do it, though.
It looked like Elliott Sadler didn't have a choice. He had a tire rub on the right front that they had to address. And he's probably lucky that he's got his teammates that made a pit stop also that he'll have back there to draft with.
Fascinating.
Yeah, he had some contact in there, and I think that's probably a championship move right there more than anything else, that they're thinking, you know, the big picture of this and making sure that they don't have an issue, get as many points as they can here today, knowing that a lot of those people they're going to be battling have had some issues.
Yeah, they're just not going to throw any points away by going out there with a tire rub, blowing a right front or something, and then coming back with a terrible finish.
And they're only going to restart about 17th and 18th in line because of all the cars that were taken out of the wreck a minute ago. So here we go. Coming to a green flag restart. That'll be with 2 laps to go in the scheduled distance of this race. It's going to be Regan Smith choosing the inside lane with Tony Stewart to his outside. Brad Keselowski behind Smith. Sam Hornish behind Stewart. Remember, Keselowski and Hornish are teammates. Will they find a way to get nose to tail and draft? What will Stewart do? And behind them, Allgaier, Bowman, Pastrana, and by the way, Trevor Bayne is back on the racetrack in that 6 car many laps down. Will he be the one that gets up there and drafts with Pastrana and changes his outcome around. 2 laps to go.
Green, green, green.
I don't think there's any time right here now to worry about teammates. It's just a matter of who you can get with, get yourself in a position to win the race now.
Yeah, all you see there was the speedy drive they put down for the crash.
99, Alex Bowman. 77, Parker Kligerman. 2 of the young drivers. Bowman only 19 years old, racing for the win, come into the white flag.
How about Kyle Larson with Dale Jr. on his bumper? That might give him an opportunity.
32 and 88. Stewart to the lead with Hornish's help. Can Hornish stay tucked behind him for one more lap? White flag in the air at Daytona. Regan Smith to the outside. Keselowski pushing him.
That's where that side draft comes into play. You can see Sam Hornish coming off the bumper of Stewart.
Up through the center. Bowman pushed by Kligerman. Somehow they got out of it and saved it. Hornish now back behind Stewart. Up to the outside, 2 is Brian Scott.
See, Tony Stewart just bull his way through there to get an opportunity, and he's going to have it too.
Final corner at Daytona. Who's going to get here first? Regan Smith 7, Keselowski 22, Stewart 33, and contact! Smith turned around. Tony Stewart is going to win this race. And a terrible crash coming to the finish.
This is a big, big wreck.
Kyle Larson's car with the front end severely torn off. He's bailing out of the car. Part of that car did pierce the catch fencing shy of the start-finish line. You see some of the others involved. In that melee coming to the finish line, a car, Larson's, was turned up into the catch fencing, the safety fencing separating the racetrack from the grandstand. Parts of that car did pierce the catch fencing.
It's a tremendous impact. You could actually feel it shake the booth up here.
I'm so glad to see Larson climb from his machine. And there is attention being focused on the grandstand side of that fencing. And we'll hope everybody's okay. Just after the conclusion of today's NASCAR Nationwide Series race, literally at the checkered flag of today's race, an accident coming to the checkered flag forced that 32 car of driver Kyle Larson up into the safety fencing, where parts of it were sheared off and forced through that safety fencing. You see the safety workers there on the scene. We have no word yet from NASCAR or Speedway officials on whether or not there are injuries on the spectator side of the fence. Larson did climb from the race car okay. Tony Stewart did get first to the checkered flag and is the winner of this race for a 5th time in 6 years. And Dave, I'm sure that the celebration for Stewart will probably be a little bit muted.
Well, it's not confusing down here, Alan, right now, although normally we get to just jump out and celebrate. Smoke, go ahead and climb out of the race car right now. His team is here. They've got the Gatorade in their hands as usual, but Tony, sensitive to what he's seen out here, is going to hear from his crew probably, but we're just going to tone it down a little bit right now because we don't have a lot of information for sure yet, Tony. We know you don't either. We do know that you won this race again, somehow getting your way through that traffic to victory lane.
Yeah, but the important thing is what's going on the front stretch right now. It's, this we've always known, and since racing was started, this is a dangerous sport. But it's hard when we assume that risk, and it's hard when the fans get caught up in it. So as much as we want to celebrate right now, and as much as this is a big deal to us, I'm more worried about the drivers and the fans that are in the stands right now, because that was I could see it all in the mirror, and it didn't look good from where I was at either.
Tony, how tricky is this racing from a standpoint of wanting to put on a show but also wanting to be safe?
Well, the hard part is you just can't get away from everybody, and when you get a green-white checkered like that, even if a hole's closing up, the guy behind you isn't going to check up, and you're not going to check up. You got to take that chance, and it's like if we get you want to put on good races, but not at the risk of the drivers and the fans like this. So it's a hard thing for NASCAR. There's no easy solution, and never has been. I mean, NASCAR's an extremely smart group, and they know they're doing everything they can to keep this from happening, and that's the main thing. And we're just thinking about the guys on the front stretch right now more than what we're doing.
Well said. Congratulations to you and your team. We'll keep everyone posted. That's another W for Tony Stewart. A little bit of interesting circumstances here today, AB.
Dave, thanks. And Stewart said it all and said it well. Racing is a dangerous sport, but you certainly want that to be contained on the competitor side of the fence and not the spectator. Today we're keeping tabs on the situation, awaiting any word from NASCAR or Speedway officials after the chaos in the closing laps at Daytona that resulted in that. Back live, Daytona International Speedway after today's NASCAR Nationwide Series race. The incident coming to the checkered flag that resulted in parts of Kyle Larson's car piercing the catch fencing, winding up on the grandstand side of the racetrack. You see all the safety vehicles and safety workers that are there managing the situation. We await word from NASCAR and or Speedway officials, but obviously at the moment a very fluid situation, and their attention rightly focused on treating those who may need treatment and getting a grip on the situation. And we will hear from them as soon as possible and let you know what we know as quickly as we can. Difficult end to what had been a tremendous race, with drivers trading the lead 34 different times, 20 different drivers leading the race. Tony Stewart finding some way to draft through at the end and win this race again, but all of that overshadowed by this scene when that 32 car was forced up into the air and into that fencing, which somehow grabbed a hold of a piece of that car, and as it sheared off, brought it through the safety cabling, the safety fencing, and all that's there.
I will bring up one thing. We saw Tony Stewart go below the yellow line as that wreck was happening in front of him, and he did get the win. They didn't penalize him, and he was just avoiding that accident, and that's why they didn't.
So Tony continuing the obligations that go with winning the race. Though speaking very eloquently in victory lane, Tony, of course, not just a racer, but a track operator as well, and a race fan, and sees all sides of this, and all concerned at the moment, focused on the grandstand side of the situation and hoping that all are okay. And we hope to get word from NASCAR and Speedway officials what they can give us as soon as possible on what's going on the racetrack now. Matter of fact, NASCAR President Mike Helton has just stepped into the booth and joined us here. And Mike, I know it's a very fluid situation and it's still ongoing, but we would sure like to know anything you can tell us at the moment.
Well, I think you've been able to see and explain what we know right now is that there obviously was some intrusion into the fence, and fortunately with the way the event's equipped up, there was plenty of emergency workers ready to go, and they all jumped in on it pretty quickly. And right now it's just a function of trying to determine what all damage is done. They're moving folks, as we've seen, to care centers and taking some folks over to Halifax Medical. So we'll be able to update later on, but right now all we know is everybody's working real hard on determining what all happened.
Mike, we know that NASCAR and the tracks do everything they possibly can to make these events safe for the fans, but you just can't predict something like this. I mean, I don't want to use a perfect storm, but imperfect storm, something, all that it takes to make something like that happen. But really, the catch fence did its job for the most part there. It
did, and you're right. I mean, we know a lot, and we know what we know. But the biggest thing we know is we don't know everything we need to know, because there are moments that occur that we've just never seen before and can't really plan for. although everybody's effort is directed that way to make it as safe as possible for both competitors and for the fans. And that's evidenced everywhere we go with the wheel fences and the cables and the structures and the gaps between the racetrack and the seating area. But we're always made aware of the fact that we don't know everything.
And obviously work to be done tonight. There is a race tomorrow, though that's not utmost on your attention at this moment.
Well, there's still victory lane celebrations. There's still inspections to do on race cars, but there is a lot more activity. And fortunately, Daytona International Speedway and all the emergency crews here are prepared and ready for that, and they're very busy right now, and our prayers and thoughts are with everybody they're working on.
Mike, thank you for your time.
Okay.
We appreciate it. NASCAR President Mike Helton joining us here at Daytona. After the end of today's NASCAR Nationwide Series race, and again, a very fluid situation, the focus, as it should be, on the safety effort going on the grandstand side of the fence. After Kyle Larson's car was forced up into the grandstand, and pieces of that car pierced the fencing and ended up on the spectator side of the fence. At this moment, lacking any further information, we are going to leave the air live from here at Daytona and go to our regularly scheduled program. We ask you and invite you for further updates on the situation. Stay tuned to the ESPN family of networks, and we will continue to stay here and monitor the scene and bring you any updates and any further information from Speedway or NASCAR officials as soon as it's possible. So the situation at Daytona today, Tony Stewart has won, but the end of the event marred by a very serious crash.